What's up, peeps, freaks, and geeks? My name is Jargo, and this is NXT here at One Wrestling Video. We are 1 week away from TakeOver Chicago, so let's take a look at last night, June 6th, 2018 episode of NXT TV, once again coming to us from Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida. The show kicks off with NXT Women's Champion Shayna Baszler coming out to address the NXT faithful. One gap I did notice inside this episode was that Baszler has her championship back. How did that happen? That's a heck of a missed opportunity there. That could have been a killer backstage segment. Baszler addresses the crowd saying that she was just using Dakota Kai to make an example out of her, but there's always that one person that thinks that the rules just don't apply to her. Of course, out comes Nikki Cross, who jumps into the ring and sets her base right up in Baszler's face. Baszler tells Cross that if she ever pulls a stunt like that, like she did last week again, she's going to choke her out. Throws down the mic. Cross grabs the mic and tells her, "Do it, Shayna. Do it. Do it." The whole crowd starts chanting with her. "Do it. Do it." Cross kind of fake attacks at Baszler and jumps Baszler back about 2 feet. Baszler drops the title and steps right up to Cross. Quick shove and the fight is on. Both women get some offense in on one another until Baszler ducks out with some blood coming out of her mouth. I'm more sold on Baszler going over in Chicago after this segment than I ever was before. Cross still in the Sanity gimmick with the old music. She seems destined to be called up to SmackDown with the rest of Sanity at this point. With Wolf, Dane, and Young being held off TV with every passing week of SmackDown, this seems more and more likely. Cross is a crazy heel who can go with the likes of Asuka, Charlotte, and Becky and would be a great breath of life into the SmackDown Women's division. Next out, we have TM61 taking on Mike Hubley and Robbie. Sorry, man, I didn't catch your last name before Thorne kicked your freaking head off. TM61 really embracing their inner heels here, and your winners in about 2 minutes and 15 seconds. This match really seemed more to showcase that TM61 is officially turned heel more than anything. It seems as though they've really changed their name now, too, to simply The Mighty, which I guess I can get behind. That's what the TM always stood for, 6-1 being the country code for Australia. I'm far more concerned about their connection, or lack thereof, with the audience at this point. Something has always felt messing with TM61. Now let's see if the Mighty fare any better with the Full Sail faithful. Then we get our first video package of the night, Lars and Alastair Black recap. And basically what's going on here is Lars is at the Performance Center and basically just murdering everybody. I count a 5-man body count by the end of the video package. I really like what they've done with Lars here, trying to build him up as a legit threat to Black in the NXT Championship. I still don't believe that Lars has a snowball's chance in hell of winning in Chicago, but it'll be interesting to see what happens once the monster suffers a defeat. The saying is you can only beat a monster once. It'll be more about the follow-up than the loss itself. As for the video package, I wish the guys that Lars was murdering had names or faces. They didn't seem very experienced, lots of no-selling going on, but it's just kind of par for the course with this mighty ogre. It was fine, but probably my least favorite of the video packages on this show. Your second match of the night, Roderick Strong representing the Undisputed Era, taking on Danny Burch. Burch, of course, one half of the 1-2 punch, along with Oney Lorcan. Strong wins this one in about 5 minutes and 43 seconds. This match was pretty damn physical and stiff. Thank God for Strong and Burch, it was only about 6 minutes. Does anyone notice how much Danny Burch looks like Frankie Kazarian? It's kind of weird. Like I was just waiting for Christopher Daniels to show up. It's kind of creepy. In the end, Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole come out to make their presence known, followed closely by Oney Lorcan and the UK champion Pete Dunne. After a brief exchange outside, Cole jumps up on the apron and distracts Burch, who then turns around into a backbreaker from Strong for the 1-2-3. Good match with a very underwhelming finish. I think this is the first time a backbreaker has ever finished a match in the history of professional wrestling. All this was setting up is the big UK match as Dunne teams with Tyler Bate and Trent Seven to take on the Undisputed Era, as well as the match between Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly 1-2 punch in Chicago. We've also had it announced now that Kyle O'Reilly will face Pete Dunne one-on-one for the UK Championship Night 2 of the UK tournament. The only thing really bothering me here is Adam Cole. Are we seriously not going to get a North American Championship match at TakeOver? Like, no Bebe? Really? That's definitely disappointing. Next segment finds Cassius Ohno in the middle of a photo shoot backstage, interrupted by EC3. This is one of those simple little things that NXT is doing so much better than the main roster. This match is going to happen next week on NXT TV. Not a whole lot of creative needed, just EC3 out to make his name. Sadly, Oh No is still kind of stuck in this gatekeeper role. I really wish they'd give the guy something to do. I mean, the man once known as Hero needs something to sink his teeth into, something with a little bit more of a creative direction, if they're ever going to do anything with Cassius Ohno. Typically, I don't really like going from a backstage segment to a video package, but for here, it kind of works because we get the on-screen announcement of Tommaso Ciampa, who will be live in Full Sail tonight. Little detail work like this really makes the show flow so much better. After the Ciampa segment, we get a Jeremy Borash show, this time starring Alastair Black. Black says that Sullivan has awoken a new reality, and at TakeOver Chicago, Sullivan will fade to black. Alastair is really a less is more character. Less talking, more ass kicking. Since winning the title, he feels as though he's been exposed from his silent badass persona, though I still see him walking out of Chicago as champion. Black will be live at Full Sail next week. And then we transition into yet another video package. Okay, guys, I gave him the pass on the first transition, but this one was just not good. There's just way too much talking, not nearly enough in-ring action. This package, however, might be my favorite video package since Punk and Cena in the 2011 Money in the Bank. It's that good. We now have the story of the King versus the Prince, and this thing is going to be great. Dream talks about how Ricochet has all the talent in the world, but can he make the crowd feel it? Which has always kind of been my biggest question about Ricochet. Dream then says that there's a monarchy in NXT. Ricochet believes that he is the king, but Dream is the prince. This reminded me a little too much of Bray Wyatt mixed in with some gold dust. Just great character stuff out of Dream. Ricochet was really good here as well. Talking about his own shortcomings and his reputation coming into NXT. Really looking forward to this one in Chicago. I think this is probably going to end up being the match of the night and completely stealing the show. Your third and final match was the rubber match between Kairi Sane and Lacey Evans. This was a good match, goes about 6.5 minutes or so. There's just a disconnect for me going on with Lacey Evans. I know a lot of you out there are a lot higher on her than I am, but I think in watching this match, I really picked up on what the disconnect is here for me. None of it feels real. It all feels so entirely choreographed. Like, the matches are good, there just doesn't seem to be any natural flow to it. Everything feels so rehearsed. While good, it doesn't translate to the main roster where things are booked on a week-to-week basis and you don't have weeks at a time to plan out your matches. We're seeing a bit of that same disconnect on the main roster with the Iconics currently. Hopefully things come together for her because I think that she's a really good performer and it's still really early into her career. As far as Kairi goes, Kairi's just fantastic. I love everything about her. This match was good enough to have taken place in Chicago, and I wonder if there's any plans for either one of these two at the TakeOver taping. And this brings us to your main event of the evening, of course, Tommaso Ciampa. Tommaso Ciampa walks out, the man with no music, possibly the most hated heel in the world of professional wrestling right now. Ciampa enters the arena to a chorus of boos. Ciampa does have his supporters, though, as a Johnny Wrestling and a dueling Psycho Killer chant break out. Ciampa tells the crowd that you can boo all you want, he doesn't really care, and stop your bullcrap with the Psycho Killer chants. You people turned on me long before I turned on you. Ciampa then makes his case for why he's right and how Johnny started this fight. It's not a fight that Ciampa really wanted. Enter Gargano, being held back by security. The suddenly new Johnny Badass breaks free, charges the ring, inevitably with Ciampa coming out on top of the exchange. Security separates the two again, only for the two to break free and cause chaos all over the Full Sail arena. Finally, they end up back in the ring when Ciampa gains the advantage and locks Gargano in the Gargano escape. He locks the Gargano escape on Johnny Wrestling. Finally breaking the hold, Ciampa makes his way up the ramp. The copyright airs, all is set for us to go off air, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Gargano comes under the bottom rope, charges Ciampa again, much like the scene from TakeOver Chicago last year, except this time the roles have been reversed. Gargano bounces Ciampa off of the video board. Ciampa gets busted wide open, laying on the stage. Gargano throws him in the Gargano escape again as we go off air, blood running all down Ciampa's head. This is a can't miss episode of NXT. If you're one of those people who kind of pick and choose which episodes you're going to watch leading up to a takeover, this is one of the must-watch shows. I have a feeling that this episode is going to feel more like a go-home than next week's episode, which will actually be the go-home, as that seems to be the new fairly common formula inside of NXT these days. I am looking forward to the Oh No versus EC3 match, and hopefully some kind of stipulation gets added to it so that we actually get a #1 contender for the North American title. I want to see EC3 versus Adam Cole in Chicago. So that's going to wrap things up for this week's episode of This is NXT. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Hit me on Twitter @NotJargo. Let me know what you think of this week's episode of NXT. And don't forget to join us back here next week at One Wrestling Video for next week's Go Home episode. For One Wrestling Video, this is Jargo, signing off.